Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome you to the May 18th, 2021 Commission on the City Plan meeting. I'm just going to read a few rules before I turn it over to Frank to start the meeting. This is a web-based meeting, so we're operating under the following procedures. The session is being audio and video recorded. Please be advised that today, to ensure sound quality, please remain on mute unless you're speaking or presenting. And if we have a public hearing, when we have a public hearing, all the normal rules, including stating and spelling your name and address, still apply. If you have an exhibit that hasn't been submitted previously that you want to show tonight, please email that to me as soon as possible, and we can add it to the list and add it to the website. And members of the public may only speak during an open public hearing. If people speak out of turn or creates an audio or video disruption, they may be ejected from the meeting upon recommendation of staff or the chair. With that being said, I'll turn it over to you, Frank.
Thank you, Dan. I'm calling the meeting to order. We need a roll call and seating of any alternates if necessary. I'm here. Who else do we have? Kathy?
I'm here. I'm muted.
Les? I can't quite read everything from where I'm sitting.
Sing's on as well.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so is it just the four of us then? And
Yeah.
Singh, he's still an alternate?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
we'll seat Singh as a voting member tonight. So it'll be myself, Kathy Warzika, Les King, and Singh. All right. So we've done the roll and seated the alternates. We have approval of the minutes from April 20th. Can we have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion. This is Singh to approve the meeting minutes.
Thank you, Singh. Can we get a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Thank you, Les. So we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion regarding the minutes? There being no discussion, all in favor of adoption, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the
Abstain. No, wait a minute.
Look at.
I'm abstaining because I wasn't at the meeting.
Okay, that's fine. So they're approved in any event.
Frank, I have a question. Can we still approve the minute meetings?
Yeah, there's three of us.
Oh, okay. 3 of us. Okay.
Thank you, though.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next matter will be the communications. There's more letters for length of service from the Connecticut Federation of Planning and Zoning Agencies. Do we need to do anything with that?
First we have to do my meeting and I think you have to do a couple things. I don't know why yours is different from mine, but I have a couple other things. So first we have a referral from Sprague. I don't know if that's in this portion of the, this just came in, so maybe we should just add this under communication.
Yeah.
It just came in the mail on May 14th. It is Sprague zoning and they're changing their zoning regulations to delete recreational campground in definition in its entirety. They're deleting the what is a permitted use in their R120 natural resource protection zone. They're deleting the recreation campgrounds as permitted in the R80 zone. They're amending their section 11.4 and adding recreational campgrounds as a prohibited use. And they're deleting the whole section, and they're saying inserting this section is left blank intentionally. And that's it. Then they're going to take it out of their, deleting it in their table of uses. So we, from a staff standpoint, we have no issues with them eliminating the use in their zone. Sure. So we have no use, we have no problem, staff does, with this proposal that's coming from the town of Sprague, which is changing their uses.
Do we need to take any action on that?
No, unless you wanted to.
Anybody want to take any particular action on that, or just receive it as a communication?
Just receive it as a communication, but I have a question for you. Deanna, it sounded, I don't know if it's my computer, but I'm having trouble hearing you. So maybe if you face the computer.
I am, but Dan just came in and told me that, so I'll face the camera. It's just Frank's here.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm gonna look at Frank through my camera here, but no, so yeah, so that's
Frank, can get closer.
will receive it as a communication. So that's one thing. The next thing is just a reminder, if you haven't done your renewal or submitted your application for CCP membership, please do that again. And then the award letters, Frank received his. I do have Mike Layhans, who's not here this evening, unless I have yours. So if you could stop by my office, I don't want to put it in the mail. It's nice certificate. I'll hold it up. Here's Frank's, and it looks like that. So pretty nice. And
Suitable for framing.
suitable for framing, and thank you for your service. So that's it as far as communications, Frank.
Okay, can everybody hear me when I speak? Can you guys hear me?
As long as you
Yes.
face the camera.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah, I'm having a lot of trouble hearing too.
I'm gonna talk as loudly as I can without breaking Deanna's eardrums. So,
Okay.
under new business, we have two public hearings,
Nope, one public hearing.
or just one.
Yep.
And potential action. Special permit 1808A 140 Yantic Road. Modification to a special permit previously known as 18-08 and 18-08M to convert an existing mill building to a hotel with associated improvements and amenities within a designated special flood hazard area. Proposed modifications are in response to comments from the State Historic Preservation Office and National Park Service and include the following: reduction in the number of rooms from 151 to 146, boiler building use change from restaurant to recreational pool amenity, elimination of an addition to the boiler building, reduction in size of connection from boiler building to hotel, court co-share eliminated and replaced with canopy, rear entrance plaza reduced and landscaping increased. Application and property of Mill Development CT LLC, Assessors Map 49, Block 1, Lot 45, Zone PMR, Mill Reuse Overlay Zone.
Chairman, before we do anything else, I'm going to log you and I off, and then I'm going to dial in so they can hear us on our phone, and they'll only see us visually, okay?
That's
So I'm just gonna log off for a moment before we open this public hearing. Hold on. Just say goodbye. Mhm.
All right, can you hear us better now?
How's the
Yes.
audio now for you folks?
Oh,
Can you
much
hear us?
better.
Very good.
Okay,
Sounds much better. Yeah,
Good.
absolutely. Yep. Thank you.
all right.
All right, so I've read the agenda regarding the public hearing on SP 1808A. Do we have anybody wishing to speak on that?
Need a motion to open the public hearing.
Okay, so can we have a motion then to open the public hearing?
So
I'll
moved.
make that motion. Oh,
Okay, so it sounds like Les made the motion, Kathy seconded, all in
Seconded.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so the public hearing is now open. Is there anybody here for the applicant who wishes to speak at this time?
There is. For the record, my name is Brandon Hanfield with Yantic River Consultants. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes,
Perfect. All right. As I said, I'm with Yantic River Consultants. I'm a professional engineer in the state of Connecticut, here representing the applicant Mill Development CT LLC. Also on the meeting here is Peter Smith with Cross Key Architects, and Peter will be able to answer any questions with regards to the architecturals if there are any.
Thank you, Brandon.
If there are, or if you could share your screen or allow me to share my screen, I'll put up the presentation materials. Let's see here if I can share screen. Okay. So before we jump into existing conditions, I think Deanna and Dan did a great job describing the history of the applications on this project, but I want to briefly run down where we stand. This is our third time in front of the commission. In 2018, your commission approved a special permit for activities within the special flood hazard area, and also a site plan approval for the conversion of the historic mill to the hotel with 151 rooms. We got a site plan modification, or actually a modification to that special permit in 2019, where we actually added a small addition to the boiler room or the boiler building related to the restaurant use. And each time we also had wetlands approvals with that. And we're back again in 2021. And you'll see that there's a pretty substantial reduction in the footprint of the proposed hotel. The boiler building itself is again a standalone structure with limited connection to the mill building proper. And we changed the uses within that boiler building to better suit the size that's available to us. So we'll touch on all those, but we're here tonight to describe those changes. As we are still within the special flood hazard area, we wanted to bring it back in front of the board to show what we're doing. And as part of that, also a site plan approval for those changes. So with that, I'll jump into, it's been a while. It's been over 2 years since we're in front of you. So site location, I think everybody's familiar with the Hale Mill property, but it's shown or outlined in black on this aerial in front of you. I highlighted the building in orange. Route 2 is to the south and to the west, and just for reference, north is to the left of the page. Yannick Road connects out to Route 32 to the top right or to the southeast, and Route 32 goes along the eastern or westerly boundary and then south to north direction. Also, you'll note that the Central Vermont Railroad crosses along the northerly boundary of our property. This, and both of these maps were presented to you in 2018. I'm just kind of circling back on them. This is the same aerial and the same existing conditions plan. And what I did is I turned on the FEMA floodplain data for you to see. In the teal blue is zone AE, which is the 100-year floodplain. In the hatched red would be the floodway itself. And then in orange would be the 500-year floodplain. And you can see that most of the subject property lies within that zone AE. And that's associated with the Yannick River itself. Oh, went too far, sorry about that. All right. This is just kind of a zoom in of the existing conditions. And I'm gonna get to the page here. So in black, you'll see our property boundary is 5.05 acres. Again, the railroad to the north, Yannick Road to the east, and this is actually Fitchville Road to the south, and then Route 2 to the west. You'll see a small stream and wetland corridor along the westerly boundary that's associated with the former race that used to be flooded as part of mill operations. It's no longer flooded. And that race actually continues in a tail race connecting out to Yannick River underneath Sunnyside Street. As you mentioned, the zone is mill reuse overlay district and the production, manufacturing, and research district. And the floodplain itself is still shown on this. It's actually outlined in green. And so the 100-year floodplain goes right up to the railroad corridor, circles back, and encompasses most of Yannick Road along our property. The base flood elevation through our property is 112 feet, and it's a little hard to see, but these are topographic lines. And in general, the entire park area here is between 109 and 111. So it's very close to the elevation of the floodplain. Any questions on the existing conditions before we move on? All right. So all I'm going to do here is quickly go through the plans that were presented to you. So this is the 2018 approved overall development plan. It's basically, you can see the existing or mill building underneath. In orange is the proposed building, and you can see connections and additions in this area here. We had 151 guest rooms at that time. The next is what we presented to you in 2019 as our site plan or a special permit modification. And what we did is we added this area in red to the back of the boiler building, which is here. And that was related to a kitchen addition for the boiler building, which was a restaurant at the time. And we also had some entry plaza improvements related to the rear entry to the site. What we have today is a little slow to load, but this is our proposed overall development plan that we submitted to you. And what I did is I highlighted the areas in green that we actually removed from the building from the previous application. So you see to the north of the building, all the areas in green that will be removed. So the previously approved boiler building addition for the kitchen will be removed. In this area here would have been the pool as part of an addition on the north side, and then an entry plaza in this area. And on the south side of the building in green, you'll see the porte cochere that used to go over the drop-off area. That will be removed and be just a canopy that hangs off the building. So if I were to go to a page that doesn't show the green, you can see our proposed conditions here. And again, there's no longer any addition really on the north end of the building. The only changes to the building will be interconnections between the mill and the boiler building. So basically a covered walkway, and the same running in a east-west fashion from these two buildings. So there'll be a courtyard between. And again, we're removing that porte cochere from the drop-off area to the south. And if I were to zoom in, which I think I can do, you'll see in dashed, that's the size of the canopy that is being proposed. And again, there's no real building, so mostly just entrance, an entrance plaza and landscaping associated with the uses. So we do have a patio and fire pit. We have a patio along the boiler building, and this boiler building here will now be used for a pool and recreation. So that is in general the changes to the building. Let's see here. This entrance walkway area is substantially less impervious surfaces than we were previously approving. Same goes for the size of the building. We are actually reducing the building by about 4,400 square feet. And most of that will now be in the form of landscaping or patio pavers. So In terms of its impact within the floodplain or the FEMA regulated area, there's really no impact as to what was previously approved twice by the commission. So we're reducing impervious area. There's no additional building footprint within the regulated area, and the building itself will still be constructed to FEMA standards in terms of the finished floor of the guest rooms being elevated above the base flood elevation. So the parking area itself has not changed and will not change. The grading of the parking will not change. The stormwater won't change. So it's really just eliminating 5 guest rooms and minimizing the size of the building. Let's see. The reason for these changes, I think you did touch on them in the report, but these plans have been reviewed by the State Historic Preservation Office as well as the National Park Service. My understanding is that SHPO approved the plans that were originally submitted to them with the boiler room addition and the expansion, but the National Park Service did not. So it didn't meet their federal requirements. And my understanding is the reason for that is historically boiler buildings were separate structures from the historic mill, and they wanted to keep that feature as a separate building from the mill. So they didn't want interconnection. So that's the reason for it. Same for the Port Cochere. I think they wanted more of the natural look of the mill building rather than a structure coming off of it.
Excuse me, Brandon.
Yes, go ahead.
The chairman just asked, can you explain why it had to go to the National Park Service?
I believe any application for a structure on the National Historic Register is required to go through both state and federal level review.
Because of the tax credits?
I believe so. And if Peter could jump on and maybe confirm that.
Yep. Thank you, Brandon. That's exactly correct. They're seeking both state and federal historic tax credits.
Thank you.
All right. So what I'll do is this is the floor plan that was submitted as part of our application. I did the same thing. I highlighted the areas in green that have been removed as part of this plan. It's upside down from what I showed you, but this is the way the architecturals were drawn. So the boiler building is top right, and the Port Cochere is to the left. So again, in green has been removed from what you approved, so much less building and no Port Cochere. And what you can see on here is now the pool is located in the boiler building, and it used to be right here. And if we go to the next sheet, this is the actual sheet without the green, if you would like to see the detail. There was a question in the review about the total number of rooms. We did submit a partial architectural plan set. There's a number of sheets that we didn't feel were absolutely necessary for this review, but I did add to the presentation sheet G-001, which has a total guest room count matrix for the whole facility, and highlighted in green down here. It's a little hard to see, but it is 146 rooms. So that confirms the reduction from 151. And then in terms of elevations, not a huge change, but this is the elevation facing towards Yannick Road or facing south. And what you see is just a very small canopy that will be hung off the building above the southerly front entrance.
Brandon, can you zoom in a little bit for these pictures?
Sure can. Oops, sorry. Here we go. So there's the front door and the canopy here that will be hung off the building with a small sign on top of it. And then if I were to go to the north elevation, you can see, actually I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. Oops, sorry. A little touchy. So here is the north entrance. The boiler building is kind of at an angle here. So it's shown in perspective view. I'll zoom out a little so you can see it better. So here's the stack. Here's the boiler building. There's no real connection except for this glass corridor that will connect to the back. And then this is the main entrance on the north side of the building, or the rear side. And our entry plaza will serve it from the parking lot. I will say there was a comment as part of the historian's review that we were forwarded today with a concern about the importance of the stack itself and restoring it. I did get confirmation today that the stack is, yes, very important to the structure, and it will be rehabilitated and remain. There was also a question about the importance of the tail race and the head race. And the intent is to do whatever we can to save the components of that. So yes, it will be preserved as much as it can be. And I think the last concern or request was related to a monument or a dedication to the workers that built and worked in this facility for the better part of the last century or more. And my understanding is that request has been forwarded to the owners or the owners group, and they are considering something like that. But I don't think I have commitment on that, but we did forward that request on to the owner. So with that, that is all I have. I will say, again, I don't think these modifications have any negative or adverse impact on the previous approvals or the floodplain or the regulated FEMA area itself. I feel it's actually an improvement over the previous condition with the reduction of building. And that's all I have to offer.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other persons wishing to speak on behalf of the application at this time? Anyone else wishing to? Sorry?
This is Pete Smith with Kroski Architects. I'll just second exactly what Brandon said. I think his description was very well presented. And as he mentioned, it's really a reaction to comments from SHPO and NPS. And we feel it certainly is an improvement over the previous plans, both from a historic nature and, as Brandon mentioned, from a impervious paving standpoint and building addition.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak at this time in behalf of this application? Any other members of the public who wish to speak on behalf of this application? Okay, hearing none, is there anybody here wishing to speak in opposition to the application? I'll ask one more time, anybody wishing to speak in opposition to the application? I hear none. So are there any questions at this time from any commission members?
I just have a quick question. This is Kathy Warzika. So you said you're going to eliminate the kitchen?
Yes.
That's correct. So the original plan had the boiler house being a standalone restaurant space, and there was an addition for a kitchen to support that. Now the boiler house is a pool space, and they're eliminating the restaurant, thus eliminating the associated kitchen to it. Part of the program also includes a banquet facility, an associated banquet kitchen. That will remain.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
I have a few things to put into the record.
All right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I have a list of exhibits. If you want to put it up on the screen, Dan, if you can do that.
Stop my share.
Okay, so this is the list of exhibits. We have 16 items on the exhibit. If I can waive the reading of those items, these are things that were in the record.
Can somebody move to waive the reading of those list of exhibits, or do
So
we need a
moved.
motion?
No.
I'll excuse you from doing that.
If everyone's comfortable with me, just, I don't think you need to do it. Okay.
We can see them.
Okay, good. So
I'm
this
comfortable.
legal notice, thank you. Legal notice was published on our website as what was required. The Wetlands did approve it. I just want to let you know. It was done as an agent approval with Dan with the commission's approval on that, and that was approved on May 6th. I just want to also let you know that I did receive the originals for the mailings. It did go to Franklin. We did not receive any comments. We also received, besides Dale's comments that were referenced, Regan had comments. Dan, if you can bring those up, from the Historical Society. Do you have that handy? So I won't read it. If you could just, I'll just leave it up on the screen for a moment. Actually, if the public's listening in, Dan, is there anyone just calling in that I should read it out loud for?
I have a few unidentified people.
Okay, so I'll read it. Dear Ms. Rhodes, I've reviewed the modified Hale Mill Inn permit documents and site plans. Hold on, move this out of the way. The Historic District Commission encourages the restoration and preservation of buildings, and I'm pleased to see the adaptive reuse of the historic asset. I do not see that the modified plans would have any adverse effect on the historic structure, and I would generally advise the developer to maintain the appearance of the core structure as much as possible and adhere to the historic integrity of the building. Thank you for allowing me to review the plans. I'm excited to see the project come to fruition. And that was signed Regan Miner, who is the chairman of the Historical Society. So that's that. I do want to go over my memo really quickly. Everything has been met in my memo. Let me just get there. Dan, if you could bring that up. Yeah, so number 1 has been met. Number 2 has been met. Number 3, Fire Marshal and Uncas Health had no comments. City engineer said he had no comments. He responded later. We received the information about the number of rooms and Brandon just went over that. Thank you. Again, authorization from Inland Wetlands. And these would just be my last final comments, that should a commission member decide to make a favorable motion relative to this application after stating the required reasons on the record, I recommend the following conditions be made part of the motion for approval. And they are 3 items: the waiver for compensatory storage and all other conditions from previous approval. Special permit 18-08 shall remain in effect and are to be considered a part of this approval. Conditions number 3 and 4 of special permit 1808M are superseded by this approval. Separate Mylar sets are not required to be filed for special permit 1808 and 1808M, but the City of Norwich letters of approval for those applications shall be placed on the final Mylar set for this project, including the wetlands letters as well, and that the approval of this modification does not extend the previously set timeframe for special permit 1808, and that approval will expire in 5 years from the original approved date of 12/18/2018, unless an extension has been granted by the commission in accordance with zoning regulations section 7710(1). And I would suggest the reasons to state on the record for the approval of the application that the proposal conforms to chapters 5 and 3.4 and section 7.7 of the regulations. I believe that's all the comments I have for you this evening regarding this application.
Thank you, Deanna. That being said, I think we can close the public hearing. Can we have a motion to do so?
I'll second, Singh.
Okay, so we have a motion by Les, a second by Singh to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so public hearing is closed. Do we want to move on to a vote on this matter?
Yes, please.
So that if we can get a motion regarding the application at this point?
I'll make a motion to approve the application with the conditions as described by Deanna Rhodes. And I would like to say I am excited to see this project move forward.
And I think we all are.
I'll second.
So we have a motion to approve and second, and I assume, Kathy, that your motion includes the reasons for the approval of the application as set forth in Deanna's memo?
Yes.
Okay, so we have the motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? So the application is approved. Thank you very much, Brandon and Peter, and a very nice presentation.
They're the
Thank
next
you.
one.
So the next matter on the agenda is the site development plan for the same project. This is STDP number 1042A, 140 Yent Road. And it's a modification to a site plan previously known as Site Development Plan 1042 to convert an existing mill building to a hotel. Proposed modifications are in response to comments from the State Historic Preservation Office and National Park Service and include the following: reduction in the number of rooms from 151 to 146, boiler building use change from restaurant to recreational pool amenity, elimination of an addition to the boiler building, reduction in size of connection from boiler building to hotel, porte cochere eliminated and replaced with canopy, rear entrance plaza reduced and landscaping increased, application and property of Mill Development CT LLC, Assessors Map 49, Block 1, Lot 45, Zone PMR, Mill Reuse Overlay Zone. So this, we do not require a public hearing on this application.
No, so for brevity, unless there's an issue that Brandon or the gentleman, Peter, want to talk about, I would like to say all the testimony and information that was provided at the previous public hearing are also replicated in this application. I don't think it's necessarily needed to go over that all again unless Brandon or Peter, you feel that there needs to be more information shared at this point.
No, we're good.
No, thank you.
Okay.
So what I'd like to just do is go over this memo, which is almost exactly the same, just a little bit different. So I'd like to just share that with you really quickly. Let me find my memo. Dan, can you call up my memo? Is that in front of me right now? Yep, here it is. So we sent this as number one to the Historic District Commission for their comment as allowed, and we had yet to receive them. We did get comments from Regan as the chair. Well, actually, we did get comments from Regan as the chairman, and those were already read recently. The other application, which are included as part of this. Again, Fire Marshal and Uncas Health District neither had comments, and neither did our city engineer. Again, the floor plan that was addressed, inland wetlands has been addressed. Prior to making a decision on this application, the commission must review the criteria and zoning regulations 756 to determine whether they have been satisfied. Section 3.3.5 Mill Reuse Overlay District approved criteria was satisfied by the previous approval for the conversion. I do believe it has been satisfied by the application, these changes. And then I would just say, should a commission member decide to put forth a favorable motion, these are that I would suggest that it be based on the site plan, building elevations, floor plans that were submitted with the application, as well as the testimony presented by the applicant, which was presented previously, but we're replicating here. And that includes the following instructions that are integral to the approval, and that all conditions from previous approval special site development plan 1042 shall remain in effect and are to be considered part of this approval, that the Mylar set for site development plan 1042 is not required to be filed due to this modification. However, the City of Norwich letter of approval for that application shall be placed on this final Mylar set for the project, that the approval of this modification does not extend the previous, Dan, can you move the page up a little bit for me? Thank you. The approval of this modification does not extend the previously set timeline for site development plan 1042. The approval will expire in 5 years from the original date of 12/18/18 unless an extension has been granted by the commission in accordance with zoning regulations section 7710(1). And I'm suggesting the reasons to state on the record, if you would like to, for approving this application. The proposal conforms to chapters 5 and 7.5 of the zoning regulations.
You're running out of breath.
I'm done with it.
All right, so with that said, does any member of the commissions have any questions at this time?
I have a quick question. So
Sure.
we have a bond in place for this?
It has not been submitted yet. There will be a bond when required, but it has not been submitted yet because they hadn't filed the Mylars yet, so we do it at around the same time, so it has not been submitted.
So the Mylars from,
The original
The
approvals were
previous
not filed.
approval?
Yeah,
oh,
were
okay,
not
there's no
filed because they were
deadline
waiting.
for that, for the site
they-
plan. All right.
I'm
Okay,
sorry, Kathy, they were
so what's
waiting
the-
to file.
How much is the bond?
One at a time. Kathy, you go ahead.
How much is the bond amount? Has it changed?
I'd have to grab the original file. Brandon, do you know off the top of
No,
your head? Do you have
Don't
that?
bother, don't bother. Don't bother, as long as you have that. Okay.
Yeah,
the second
we have
plan
it.
will-
That's,
I do
And
have the
that's part
amount
of
if
the-
needed.
plan?
Here, let's speak one at a time, people, because we're talking over each other. If somebody has a question, finish your question, then let Deanna finish her answer before we start talking again. So, do you have another question, Kathy?
Yes, will we be getting an as-built plan at the end of this project?
Deanna?
we normally get a zoning as-built and, but I can ask Brandon, are you looking for a utilities as-built? We would only get that if that was requested by the Public Works Department. Brandon, were you intending to do that?
I believe NPU does, so we provide our files to NPU, and NPU does their own as-builts for the utilities. So on other projects, that's what we've done, and I anticipate it'll be the same here. There will be an as-built of the building itself. And I'm sure we can also do the other improvements in drainage as well.
And Brandon, we'd want the elevation, the first floor elevations for the special flood hazard area criteria too, to verify that it's met that.
That makes sense.
And then Kathy, the other question that you had was about the bond. The bond is one of the conditions from the original site plan that's going to remain in effect. So we do have that bond amount. I just don't have it handy in front of me.
Okay, that's fine. Was the as-built requirement part of the original approval too?
I
No.
don't believe so.
Okay. All right,
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, then I would entertain a motion to approve Site Development Plan 1042A.
I'll make that motion with the conditions that Deanna Rhodes outlined. And Deanna, do you want us to request an as-built plan?
If you feel, if that's something that you want, Kathy, yes, you can do that.
Just as a clarification, it is required on the original approval as condition number 10.
Okay, good.
Okay, good,
All right,
thanks.
perfect. Thank you.
We're good. We don't have to do that then.
All right, and are you citing the reasons set forth in Deanna's memo for approval?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, so we have the motion to approve. Can we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that. This is Les.
Okay, and a second by Les. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Hearing none, the motion is carried and the site development plan is approved with the conditions and for the reasons set forth. All right, thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation. Thank the commission members for attention to this matter.
Thank you. Brandon, are you going to stay on for the other matter for later?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so moving on, the next matter under new business is a referral from the Zoning Board of Appeals in accordance with zoning regulation section 710.2.5, that's 7.10.2.5, ZBA number 21-07 Myrtle Drive. It's a request for a use variance to allow multifamily residential development on properties located within the business park zone. Application of Alexander Gebby, member of Everreal Properties LLC, property of the estate of Margaret C. Stanley, care of Michael Lehan Esquire, Assessors Map 41, Block 1, Lots 5 and RD, Zone BP. So, you want to,
Sure, I
tell
can
us
give-
what this is about?
Sure, I'm actually just want to clarify, it's lots 5-1, 5-2, and RD, just so you see, I added those up there. They weren't on their on the application. So just normally, I just want to talk to the chairman about this. Normally, when we have a referral from one board to another, we don't necessarily take testimony on that because it's not a hearing or anything. But we do have Brandon here and Alexander Gebbie and Mark Block. If you are comfortable allowing them to speak a little bit about this, that's up to you as the chairman and the commission. But normally, when it's a referral from one board to another, it's not an application for them to comment on. So I think you guys need to decide that. But I will tell you a little bit about what's going on here. So Myrtle Drive, we're going to get, Dan, if you can get to some of the drawings here a little bit too. Myrtle Drive is in the business park, and in the business park, our current zoning regulations do not permit residential construction in the business park, and we all are aware that there is apartments and condos and things like that that are in the business park that were built, but over time, and without telling you exactly when it happened, they were zoned out, and I think it was probably for the thoughts that we were using valuable land that could have been used for commercial development or manufacturing stuff for residential. But I understand that at the beginning of the business park, they were looking for activities to happen there and, movement, and that's why some of the residential happened. However, this particular property is right off of sort of Dominican Drive, and you can kind of see it's highlighted in orange here. There's a piece right here that's open space a lot. There's this little stub that comes off of Dominican down here, and also after Myrtle, Dan, if you want to use your little cursor, you can kind of point out in Myrtle there, you have the existing St. Jude Common Drive and their development right there. So it's sort of surrounded by residential here. We have the Cambridge Estates apartments and all that area here. So this property has some tough topography. It's surrounded by residential uses. So it hasn't had a lot of interest or activity due to those reasons that you have residential around it and its topography and location. So it's not been really been a high interest for commercial manufacturing there. So this property has been sitting vacant for a really long time, and it's my understanding that the Gebbies are interested in this property, looking to do multifamily development on this site. And they have submitted a variance application because it is a use that is no longer permitted here. So they did submit in their variance hardship, if you could bring that up. I will read it for anybody that's that's listening in. The grounds for the variance, the appeal, is the subject properties are the remaining parcels from the original property that was developed by William Stanley. The original parcel was subdivided and became St. Jude Common, Cambridge Estates, and the FedEx warehouse building. The property originally fronted on Wisconsin Avenue. Except for the FedEx warehouse, which is directly off Wisconsin Avenue, St. Jude's Common and Cambridge Estates are set back off Dominican Drive and Oxford Drive, which were roads created as part of the subdivision. The properties which are subject of its request are set back off Dominican Drive and Myrtle Drive and are the remaining lots from the subdivision. When first subdivided in 1997, the land was owned by Margaret Stanley. The subdivision plan, filed as plan number 344, reflected that the land was located within IP Industrial Park Zone. The plan further shows that uses within the subdivided land included multifamily uses, including St. Jude's Commons. Thus, it would appear that residential use was permitted. It further shows future multifamily development within the subdivided property. See a copy of Plan 344 attached as Exhibit A, which we'll show in a moment. Multifamily is no longer permitted since the revision to the zoning ordinance and created business park zone for what used to be the industrial park zone. However, the subject properties have remained undeveloped. Okay, go back up. Hold on one second. I'm just moving this out of the way so I can. Dan can, got it. In reviewing the location and topography of the property is well off Wisconsin Avenue, offering limited visibility, offers little frontage on either Myrtle Drive or Dominican Drive, and the property has a relatively steep topography. Applicant believes that as a result of these conditions, the property has limited potential for commercial development. Further, the location of the properties is within a residential development, although within the business park zone. Given the limitations for commercial development, the logical development of these properties is for a residential use, compatible with the existing residential communities. The applicant would propose to build a multifamily development of not more than 80 units and to comply with the requirements of the multifamily zone. In short, the hardship present is that the properties in question are the remaining properties located within a residentially developed area situated in the business park zone, which no longer permits the continued residential development and is not reasonably developable for commercial purposes. These are conditions that are present by virtue of the circumstances of development and rezoning justifying the granting of a use variance. So again, they're asking for a use variance to utilize this property in the business park zone for multifamily for development of no more than 80 units.
And we just need to make a referral back to the zoning commission as to,
Not to the zoning portion, zoning board of appeals.
zoning board of
Yep.
appeals as to whether we recommend the variance or not.
All right, yes, yep.
So,
It's ultimately their decision for the hardship and to look at it, but, you know, because you're the planning commission, it's important for you to review this because it is a change from the use and it's required by the regulations.
Yeah. So that being said,
Oh, can we get to the other map? Let's get to that other map that was referenced in here, Dan. So this shows a future building, if you can kind of point to that future building, see the site development plan. So that was showing a multifamily building on that property. It was never developed there, and it's behind the Federal Express building. But that was,
There's also another residential at the top left of the plan,
top left.
I believe. This.
That's St. Jude.
Common. Yeah.
Yep,
St.
St.
Jude's,
Jude. Yep.
Yeah.
So we have the future building, which is see the site development plan. So that's kind of where we're at. So it's first, Chairman, do you want to allow for the for Mr. Gebbie or Mark Block or Brandon to speak about this? It's up to you and the commission members.
yeah, I'm going to ask the commission members basically whether they have any questions rather than having a presentation. Do any of the members have questions for the applicants? Or
I have some comments.
Okay, well, if we don't hear from the people that are involved, we can move to comments. Nobody else has any questions for the proposed developers?
I have none.
Okay. All right, so Kathy, what are your comments at this point?
Okay, just to give you a little background, because I know a little bit about this, not a whole lot, but I know that when the industrial park was created, there was an agreement, and I think there was I think the agreement was because NCDC must have managed this. Is that right, Frank? Do you know about that?
Say it again?
The NCDC managed the industrial park. So I think the agreement, there was an agreement with covenants in it.
Owned it and didn't manage it at one time to the extent that there was any management.
Right, okay. So in the covenant, and I don't know if it still exists, there was a requirement that the industrial park could contain residential development, but only 10% of the entire industrial park could be residential development. So that's probably why they eliminated the use for any property in the industrial park for residential. I'm making that assumption. I don't know. I think they've surpassed their 10%. But that's the background behind the residential. And,
Well, that would be another matter if there's any deed restrictions regarding
Yeah.
it. Mark, can I ask Mark Block, are you aware of any such deed restrictions or covenants?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm also have been counsel for a number of years to North Community Development Corporation. There were,
Yes,
Kathy is correct, there were covenants and restrictions attached to the business park when it was the industrial park. They were on the books for, I think, 10 or 15 years. Then they were renewed for another 10 years. They have since expired and are no longer in effect as to any of the property located within the business park proper.
so the 10% covenant is no longer in effect, it has expired.
That's correct.
Okay,
and it may have also been in the zoning regulations at one point in time, but I don't remember. So I just wanted to give you a little background on that. So,
okay, so are there any other comments or questions regarding the referral issue?
I have another question. How long has the property been on the market, actively marketed?
I can't answer to how long it's presently been marketed by Lyman Real Estate under a current listing agreement. How long it might have been marketed before that, I don't know. It's my understanding that there was little or no interest in this property until Mr. Gebbie made an offer and we started investigating the development potential for the property as residential.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Hearing none, then I would entertain a motion from the commission as to whether to send this to the Zoning Board of Appeals with a recommendation either to approve or not approve. So would somebody please make a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, yeah, I'd like to
Say
make a motion.
favorable or non-favorable. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Les?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to send a positive recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals in accordance with zoning regulation section 710-2.2.5.
Okay, and somebody want to second that?
I'll second it.
So
This is
motion
Singh.
by
I'll
Les,
second it.
seconded by Singh. We've already had discussion. All in favor?
No, I would like to have a little more discussion about this.
Well, what more do you want to say now, Kath?
Okay, I just would like to say that the town is currently looking at an alternate industrial park. And their concern is there's not a lot of land for industrial use. And here we are taking a piece of property that is next to residential on one side, but it also is next to an industrial use, which is the FedEx building.
Yeah, and on the
That's
other
why I
side
asked
of
the
the FedEx building is another residential.
Right, but
But-
it doesn't mean it can't be used industrial. That's just my question, my comment. I don't see that there is a hardship denying them reasonable use of the land. And that hardship can't be financial. So I don't know that I can support this, but I just have to make those comments.
Okay, any other comments? All right, so we have a motion and a second for a favorable recommendation. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I
Any opposed? Is that an aye or are you in opposition? Okay,
Opposition.
so,
Okay.
all right, so we have
Favor.
3 in favor, 1 opposed. So the motion carries with a favorable recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Moving on to old business, we have 612 West Thames Street planned for the tree cutting in the conservation easement. Is anybody here to talk about this?
I'm gonna have Dan take over at this point.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, and I believe Joe Thoreau is on the call who created the report, so if you would like to speak on it.
Okay, Joe, and that was the last meeting we had asked for a plan for the tree cutting, and this is the report on that plan,
Yeah.
is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is Joseph Thoreau, for the record, certified forester and soil scientist. I assume you guys have had a chance to review the plan and the report. So basically, it comes down to two phases. I recommend that there's a site cleanup and a brush pile construction phase where you can, basically clean up all the existing tops and piles of wood, create, whatever number of brush piles. And then the second phase would be along the guidelines that I recommended as far as tree and shrub planting. I did notice one typo though on the report that I sent to Dan is I did not include the number of the different tree species and shrub species that need to be planted. So with the tree species, I am recommending 4 of each. White oak, scarlet oak, shagbark, hickory, crabapple, and flowering dogwood. And then as far as the shrub species are concerned, I am recommending 6 each of those species. As far as the plantings are concerned, if you guys want a specific, locations, I can go out there and flag them. But I think honestly, if they're spaced out reasonably, they're going to kind of duplicate what was growing out there at one point. The only difference being that the trees that were cut are obviously mature, larger diameter trees, whereas these are, going to be younger trees, and it's going to be a while before they can, provide the same habitat, the same cover that the existing forest did.
Can I ask, has the plan been provided to the parties, and are the parties on the meeting call tonight regarding this?
It has been provided to them, Frank. Nobody's on the call tonight, but I do have an email from Attorney Green that I can read to you if you'd like.
Sure, why don't you do that?
So he says, "Thank you for the report. Unfortunately, I think this report will lead to many more questions, such as how many plantings and where," which Joe actually just addressed the number of plantings. And it's up to the commission if you'd like him to go out and flag where they should take place, or in the report he says for simplicity they could be planted evenly spaced throughout the area. Continuing, he has no objection to what is proposed. However, he will leave it to Attorney Chappell to finalize on behalf of his client, CVT. I'm unable to participate in Tuesday's meeting, and I will leave it to the city and CVT to work out an implementation plan. My only caveat is any plan has to hold my client harmless from any responsibility. We have already lost our purchaser due in part to this issue. However, finalization of the plan will assist in obtaining a new purchaser. Please advise if anything is needed from me prior to the meeting. Thank you, Matt Green.
Okay, and Attorney Chappell, has he given you any comments at all?
Nope.
But he has been provided with a copy of the report, I take it?
Yes.
Okay. Well, again, I don't think we have any authority to order anything at this point, but if Attorney Chappell and Attorney Green can work out whatever issues they have regarding this plan and agree to it, then we can approve it as a plan, I think, at that point.
We actually do have authority because it's in the conservation easement that they're in violation of the conservation easement that the city has. So the city accepts conservation easements and it has to be maintained. So they are in violation in the city. That's why we're involved as far as making sure that this gets resolved, and that we want to make sure that, and Dan, we talked a little bit about the financial responsibility with our tree warden which is Teresa Hanlon, had been in contact with Mr. Thoreau, but the city is not being responsible for this plan, the creation of this plan or the implementation of the plan or the cost of the trees. We're just making sure that it happens because they're in violation of their conservation easement. So Coveview Terrace is going to be responsible for taking care of these expenses. And we were going to have Mr. Thoreau bill the city, an invoice for this work, that's for this plan and his work, so that we can get that taken care of by Coveview Terrace.
Yeah, but when I say we don't have authority to enforce it, I mean, the only enforcement mechanism would be through a civil action brought by the city attorney.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's why we're trying to get them to all agree and do it. So we're all happy,
So, I guess there's no action that we can really take tonight other than, maybe follow up with Attorney Chappell and ask that the two parties, come to some final agreement regarding this plan as to its implementation, and then maybe we can get it entered as some kind of an amendment to the conservation easement or something of that nature.
I think that what they want this evening, and Dan, you could answer to this, is that we just want, if you think this plan is acceptable and that everyone from the city is in agreement with this planting recommendations, then we can take this off the commission's hands and just kind of deal with it from there. So if the commission is comfortable with this report that Mr. Thoreau has created, that would be helpful for Dan and myself to move forward.
Yeah,
Well,
and
that's
I would,
my recommendation. I don't think we need a formal vote on it, or that there.
no, I would just ask if the commission feels one way or another, if they want specific locations flagged by Mr. Thoreau, or just leave it as plantings spread throughout, just so we have clarity, so we can provide them with clarity.
I personally-
My suggestion would just leave it to them to plant where they feel it's appropriate.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, go ahead, Cal.
I personally would like the forester to locate the plants. And I also think that we should at least send a recommendation of support for this plan. I think that's what they want, so that they know they can move forward with it. They don't want to come back and say, you didn't, we don't like the plan and we don't like what the resolution is. So I think they want a resolution. That's the way I hear it. So I would actually make a motion to approve this plan with the condition that they add the number of trees to it, and that the forester locate the trees. And I just think that it will make it easier for everyone involved. It is our conservation easement, so we are responsible for what they're going to do. And I'm sure that the developer or the owners just want this resolved. So they don't want to have to come back because we didn't like what they did.
Made a motion. Can we get a second? Anybody get a second?
Yeah, I'll second it. That's fine.
Okay, Kathy made a motion to approve the plan with some modifications stated on the record. Les has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that motion is carried, and Deanna and Dan can move forward with that with the parties.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
The next one is
Okay, so the next order of business is tabled. That's a referral from the city council regarding an ordinance for the abatement of real estate taxes on the Panema Mill building. So that's being tabled at the request of the applicant. Extension requests, we have none. Bond release requests, we have none.
I actually have a bond release request
Okay.
since the application. So I would like to add this to tonight's Dime Bank. That was the project that they did on 115 West Street, which was the ATM and the improvements that they did there in the special flood hazard area. It's been done, it's completed, stabilized, and the bank is requesting the erosion and settlement control bond be released. It was $4,500. I have email from Brian Long, who says that the bond, they're all set. So if you would release the bond for, it was special permit number 1901 for $4,500 E&S bond, we can release that.
Okay, so can we have a motion to release that bond, please?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to release it.
I'll second it.
Second.
Chris is saying.
Okay, motion and second to release the bond as stated by Deanna. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, so the bond release is approved.
Great, thank you.
Under other business, we have a draft of open space fee language for subdivision regulations. I think that's going to be tabled
I'm going to
again.
ask for that to be tabled. We spoke with Mike Lahan at last month's meeting. He had some concerns about the language, and Dan and I met with him today, went over his comments, which were very hard to read, so he kind of made new comments, and we sat with him today. And I'm going to tweak that for you, hopefully for your next month's meeting. As far as the second one, the draft for the building square footage to trigger CCP review language, we have, you guys approved that last month to send on to Attorney Driscoll, and he's reviewing that at this time, so I have no updates.
So that can be tabled.
Yep,
then,
table
too.
both, yep.
All right, the next order of business is a reminder regarding the POCD meeting for July 14th.
Yep, and that's just going to be at the point, we've already went through every chapter. Dan and I are going to start, we have done some, but not really have spent a lot of time because we've been super busy these days, but we're going to go through each of the chapters and consolidate the comments that we received over the period of time that we met, which is a couple years at this point, and start working chapter by chapter and making recommendations of what we, based on what we heard. So we're very at the initial stages of doing the update to the plan of conservation development. But we, at some point, well, our meeting will talk about when we want to start really delving into that and what we want, how we want public members or anything like that to be involved in that process at the very beginning.
Okay. And the next order of business is a staff report regarding draft on short-term rental ordinance.
Yep, so June 21st, Dan and myself and Rich Shook are going to do a presentation in front of the council before their meeting. I think it's a 45 minutes they're giving us from 6 to 6:45 so that we can talk about the short-term rental draft ordinance that we've been working on, which is was a collaboration with the mayor and Alderman Mark Betancourt and the city attorney. We've looked at many, many ordinances throughout the United States and local ordinances as well, and think we've came up with something that's pretty good. We've also sent that to the company Granicus, who does enforcement of zoning ordinances for short-term rentals, and Dan was on a phone call with them, and they gave us some recommendations. They did think our ordinance was a little bit complex, but based on Norwich, it's a different situation than many other places. You kind of have to look at what you want to do. I will tell you that our ordinance is unique in the sense that we're trying to locate short-term rentals if they would be permitted in areas that are within a half-mile of public transit, so that we're focusing on areas so that they are where people can easily get around, visitors take advantage of public transit, and really closer to where we have goods and services for people that are visiting. So our focus will really be to put them where it makes the most sense and we get the most bang for the buck, and to have less impact on the more rural areas that aren't on the public transit. So we're taking a different transit-oriented development approach to our short-term rental.
And will we as a commission get a copy of that draft ordinance?
Yes.
Before your presentation?
Absolutely, and I will give you not only ordinance, but I will give you the PowerPoint presentation if you wanted this before it too, if you'd like to take a look at that.
Okay, great.
So we'll try to get that ready for our June meeting for you.
Okay, and then the next is a draft ordinance regarding complete streets.
Yep, so Dan's gonna just show that real quick to you. It's on our website. It's definitely draft for review. The council hasn't seen this yet, so we don't, we've vetted it through Public Works. Hey, the word review is spelled right. we've vetted it with Public Works. Dan Deniska, and the amazing person that he is, the transportation planner, actually started working on this when he wasn't even working for the city. Ryan Thompson and Dan and myself met on Fridays about once a month to work on the draft Complete Streets ordinance. Dan really wanted to have one, and when he was a member of the commission, and we've been working on it for a really long time. It kind of got on the back burner, and it's back up front again. And it's not very long. It's a fairly short document, but we think it's really important for the city to have. Dan, do you want to share a little bit more about that? Maybe talk quickly about the grant application?
I just add a little that there'll be a presentation to the city council regarding this too. So I'll probably give it to CCP beforehand. I don't know if we'll do that in June or July. We were talking post-budget season at this point. And it's really a directive for whenever we do any transportation investments or repairs or anything that's beyond minor maintenance, that we think of all road users, network users. So people who walk, people who bike, people who take public transit. It's not just focused on cars. And we just submitted a application for a planning study for basically downtown Norwich. The study is downtown/Chelsea Harbor mobility study, to work on connecting in the Route 82 redevelopment project with downtown and Route 2 from Lower Washington Street over to East Main Street, to eliminate a lot of the high-speed, car-focused wall of Chelsea Harbor Drive that cuts off the waterfront from downtown, just to make it easier for people to walk and get around and get to the intermodal garage and whatnot. So I don't think we'll hear about that until the middle of the summer, if not later, but the COG submits that to DOT for them to select who they want to go with. That's roughly $250,000 grant.
Thank you. I was going to say, yeah, it was a $250,000 study.
I
so
hope that we'll
really
get that, and it all ties together with this. And Public Works, the city engineer and Public Works director are on board with this. They've already reviewed it. So the next step is to present to the council.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good thing to do.
Yeah, and we're doing a lot of good work, and thank you to Dan. He worked really diligently on that grant application because of his transportation background and Complete Streets background. He was the right person to work on that grant, so thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. So that being said, are there any other final matters before we have a motion to adjourn?
I don't think so.
All right. I think we've accomplished our meeting purposes for tonight, so can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Have a motion, a second? Second?
I think it was second by Kathy. If not, then I'll second.
All right, well, we have a motion to adjourn and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you, everyone, for your attention and attendance tonight, and see you hopefully in person sometime soon.
Yeah, great work, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, I have a question. When are we going to go back to in-person meetings?
Well, John